Welcome everybody to the AEL Uni League for the last time in Season 1 Dota 2 for 2022. I am the Wandering Bard, and tonight we have the grand finals for you between the UQ Super Warrior Chads and LooneyMelb. It's an absolute pleasure to be here bringing this to you. Last night, we saw the lower bracket finals between LooneyMelb and UO from Adelaide. One of the best series I've ever had the pleasure of casting here in AEL. Absolute grand final quality games coming out. So hopefully, LooneyMelb can maintain the rage here against UQ Super Warrior Chads. It's another best of 3, so tough to back up just 24 hours after that last epic defense of their Ancient and have to do it all again here against probably an even better team, but that's what it takes if you want to be season champion. And luckily for everyone, we are into the first draft already. We can see here the UQ Super Warrior Chads, ably led by their man Gachi, Infamous Amos, Raccoon Chef, Neo, and Dunker Dunker. Very mellifluous bunch of player names there on the team, but they have been proving their moniker is accurate all season long. They are the Chads. You are the other guy. LooneyMelb, though, they have been on a bit of a redemption run through the lower bracket. They almost had to reschedule this match because they didn't expect to make the grand final, in their own words. But here they are. They believed in themselves fundamentally, even if they didn't necessarily believe in the upper, higher brain function parts, and they gutted it out against UO to come back from an insane early game deficit in Game 3, turn things around in the late game. And if they have that kind of team play and that kind of quality here against the Super Warrior Chads, they look unbeatable. They really look like a championship caliber team. But the Chads have been so dominant all season, I do find it hard to tip against them for now. This first draft is going to be very telling, obviously, and LooneyMelb, having just seen several of their drafts last night, no surprise to see them go back to the first pick, Grimstroke. This has been an incredible hero, obviously, for almost every team. It's just an incredible hero generally in Dota 2 right now. And certainly they were able to make great use of it on Samsara in that epic Game 3. All of LooneyMelb's players were really hot looking by the end of that game there. Their form is incredible. Zoob's playing the 4 position to an absolute T, not only on more aggressive heroes like Pangolier and Monkey King, but also the Phoenix, something they can look to in the sort of strength hero heavy metagame. But the Super Warrior Chads, they take a different tack with their support, and didn't even take the approach that UO perhaps ill-fatedly did against this first pick Grimstroke, which is to deny pick the Chaos Knight. They bounce back with a Mars Ogre. So great lane dominators there, some strong mid-game as well, bit of late-game insurance even, as the Ogre Magi kind of widens the range of carries which you can take into the ultra-late game. Now the ball is back in LooneyMelb's court. They've already banned out Underlord, which seems to be a pretty stable ban for them, and also the Undying. So they've identified that the Super Warrior Chads, they do play in the way that their name implies. They are a super aggressive, super confidence-based team, and they do love to run you down from the very start of the game. So they take out those heroes, and they pick up the Monkey King. Now, this could be a core. Monkey King core, pretty decent counter to a hero like Mars, a hero like Ogre in the lanes, who relies on raw tankiness, often doesn't do so well having to trade against Jingu Mastery. But more importantly, if you're playing against abilities like the Arena, having the Monkey King ultimate that you can actually throw into the Arena is a big deal to start with. But that kind of like ability to contest space with your own ultimate, with the Wukong's command, very powerful. That said, Zoobs was the one piloting the Monkey King as a 4 position last night and made it look incredible. The vision advantage the team got from the Primal Spring, from leaping around from tree to tree, was really impactful in turning around that series after a tough Game 1 loss to Evandros. So we'll see how the Warrior Chads respond. They ban Rikamaru. Alright. I can't remember seeing either of these teams pick Ricky at all, or any Ricky being picked at any point during this season, but it is a hero that's been floating around the metagame, especially in the SEA region, so we'll take that out of there. Also take out the Ursa, perhaps just things that counter Mars in the lane. I'm not sure whether that's their thinking, but they take those heroes out of the picture. In return, Lone Druid banned and Quap banned. I mean, it's obviously these two teams are well aware of each other, both as, uni league teams, and a lot of the prominent players from each uni's roster are sort of well known in the scene, their heroes, their preferences. So these are targeted bans, and we are seeing, the draft kind of still hang in the balance. Neither team heavily committed one way or the other in terms of strategy, neither team seemingly getting a huge pick, but Juggernaut is a very nice grab for the Super Warrior Chads. Not only is it obviously a very stable carry that scales very well with the attack speed from Ogre Magi's Bloodlust and can combo well with it in the lane, but you deny pick it from LooneyMelb, one of the two inbuilt magic immune carry heroes that can easily avoid Mars's Arena. So it's not the be-all, end-all, obviously, but Mars Arena, especially in the hands of a good Mars player, the Arena Spear combo is just such a reliable form of initiation. It's the reason that Mars has become, like, the bedrock pick of competitive Dota metas ever since it was introduced. And having a way for your carry to kind of effortlessly slip out of that is very powerful, but Legion Commander can certainly help. Having that strong Dispel, that Purge on your heel, to help get heroes out of stun chains and then help get them out of the arena. If you purge a hero, if you remove the stun from a hero who's been speared into an arena wall fast enough, because they've just been stabbed by the arena, they should be able to use any sort of movement ability to get out of the wall, because other than the physical wall component, the main thing keeping you in, I believe, is just the spear knockback that tends to interrupt movement. So that is one way to try and get heroes out of there early on. And obviously Legion Commander brings other things to the table as well. Very powerful laner. I've seen it kind of take a shift away from being a support back to being an offlaner again, and it's certainly a way to give your team a bit of pace and a bit of playmaking ability to create space for a Medusa. So this is looking quite similar to the draft that they played and won with in Game 2 yesterday. They didn't have a Legion then, but that was when they had the Mars themselves. So in a situation where they don't have the arena to initiate, you can easily see how the Monkey King Vision will be used to scout out ganks, this time for a duel instead. And all of this will be used alternately to defend and to take the heat off of by, making plays on the other side of the map. Their Medusa carry in the hands of Monica. Monica proving incredibly sturdy and reliable as a carry player across a very difficult, challenging series yesterday. And no doubt having Monica on the Medusa is going to be very reassuring to LooneyMelb, but I am a bit concerned that Legion isn't quite the hero Mars is. Like, you don't have the same capabilities, and particularly if it comes to the Super Warrior Chads forcing their way into the Dire Triangle to contest Medusa and her, what we assume would be her stacks. It is just not the same thing as being able to put an arena at the top of the cliff and just bar movement, trap heroes off from other heroes, right? You can deal one target, and dealing Juggernaut is very good. Legion Commander is a decent counter to Juggernaut in the laning phase, right? Because the heal allows you to stand in the spin and deliver your own physical damage back, which is usually the best way to deal with Jug if your hero is capable of surviving that kind of trade. But I am a little bit concerned as to what happens next. And the Super Warrior Chads, they take the opportunity to grab a Rubik. I believe it was Raccoon Chef playing this previously. And it absolutely floored me with its effectiveness. I do recall the power of the Super Warrior Chads, the Chad Rubik. I don't know about your Rubik. This is a Chad Rubik. So LooneyMelb, with the opportunity for Stone Gaze to be stolen, for LC's Duel is a very easy steal. Lots of bad things can happen if this Rubik player gets a good start and is able to pick up their kind of cast range and mobility items. Usually makes the hero more playable. So we will see. Morphling ban out. Okay, so we're still targeting carries on the side of Super Warrior Chads, or maybe carry like mid laners. 9 hasn't been a Morphling picker in any of the games that I've seen, but wanting to remove that potential counter, or maybe anticipating a move of the Medusa over the mid lane for 9 to pick up. But based on last night's games, that doesn't seem to be the kind of style that LooneyMelb likes to play. They are very much happy to play for Protect 1, more or less, and I doubted it at times last night. I thought the approach might come back to bite them, thought they could easily be punished for relying so heavily on a single core. But, you know, with the right hero picks, Medusa, Phantom Lancer, some heroes can just take it late, and they did a tremendous job of playing around their core and rallying around their core without necessarily having to have another big scaling damage dealer. But the second ban from the Warrior Chads that we've just seen, the Void Spirit, that one is seemingly a lot closer to home for what LooneyMelb are trying to do in their mid lane. They want another damage hero early on, another playmaker, something that's going to be lending the damage to make sure that any early game duels from LC are successful. Because, look, Monkey King and Grimstroke, especially Grimstroke, can put out a decent amount of burst for a support position hero, but you do not want to rely on that. You need to be able to blow someone up, not even just before the duel ends, but before counter initiation arrives, before Mars blinks over and spears you. So, we'll see how this goes. Or who knows, this could even be another offlaner. They could pivot LC to support and Monkey to carry. But before I can finish saying that, it's Gyrocopter. So that is certainly a hero that fits the bill, right? We've got heavy nukes, strong laning opportunities. They could still even potentially pivot their cores around if the last pick from Warrior Chads makes the lane matchup untenable. And yeah, homing missile with the vision from the Monkey King, it's another thing that helps vision yourself. LooneyMelb are fully vision pilled. It seems like all of their drafts since losing game 1 yesterday to a Night Stalker have been heavily emphasizing gaining vision of the enemy with their hero's abilities beyond what you're normally allowed. They definitely make plays as a group around those abilities and their wards. You know, it's just good Dota up and down. And obviously, the Super Warrior Chads are a team bursting with talent and no slouch in any department of the game. But we'll see whether or not they are as sharpened, as on edge as LooneyMelb are, having just played an absolutely grueling series just a day ago. Last pick from Gachi's squad is the Outworld Destroyer. Outhouse Decorator himself is on the map, and that is going to spell trouble for these static cores. Medusa, LC, Gyrocopter, none of them particularly good at getting in and out of Gachi's range quickly, and the absolute damage cannon that is OD will pose massive problems for them. Not to mention, of course, that the Astral Imprisonment is a great counter to heroes like LC and Medusa. In fact, even the Gyrocopter, they're all either telegraphing their targets or telegraphing the time when they want to be dealing damage, and a simple banishment can easily ruin all of that. So we will see Raccoon Chef on the Rubik, Infamous Amos on the Juggernaut, all of this stuff looking good right now, and Dunker obviously on the Signature Mars, Neo on the Ogre Magi, and we're just waiting for LooneyMelb to lock up Samsara on the Grimstroke. We've got Zoobs back on the Monkey King, Vorkor, Legion Commander Monica on the Deucer, and 9 playing the mid Gyrocopter. It's just as anticipated. Everyone's on a very comfortable hero and a very comfortable role. It looks like an awesome game coming up. And it's just the start. This is a best of 3. We are going to be getting at least 2 games. We will hopefully be getting 3. I am biased for the side of good Dota and a good broadcast, so we'll see which of these teams is ultimately the better. But you and I, the ones watching, we're already the real winners. We're already the season champions, somehow. But we're not the only champions in the room because, of course, we should also thank the sponsors who make all of this possible. As we wait for the game to start, we will quickly shout them out, as we always do, starting with Predator. Conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming today, because Predator are the gaming PC partner of the AEL. You should conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming because they put power and precision in your hands, elevating your gaming experience in every way with quality and performance, thanks to Predator. And, of course, Beyond Predator, we have AOC, the best viewing experience, not just for Dota, but now they have launched the first ever monitor crafted for League of Legends. So, if you happen to be a LoL enjoyer, you can enjoy League of Legends accurately represented in every aspect, from the iconic Hextech design of the Aegon Pro AG 275QXL to its specific game setting mode tailored to League of Legends. In-game visuals will achieve their fullest potential from the combination of AOC's monitor expertise with help from the creators of the League of Legends, Riot Games themselves. So check it out today at au.aoc.com. And last of all, Rig, our headset sponsor, they have what it takes to win. which is something both teams will definitely be looking for tonight with the season championship on the line. So, hopefully, you, as they, have Rig headsets delivering superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. If you join the Rig team today, you will know that it enhances your gaming experience. And with that, we are ready to kick off this one-of-a-kind experience. Season Finals, Zoobs experiences Radiant Ward Vision by walking up to the Tier 1 tower there. And we're kicking off now. So, no early pre-horn action. But it is interesting to see Zoobs is already out there. On this Monkey King. So having some slight camera issues, but that's alright. We'll get these sorted out. And we can see that the lanes... Okay, Zoobs is actually playing in the top lane. Is this not just for First Blood? Very interesting. I would not have anticipated there being Monkey King top. Seems surprising to me, but we'll see how we go. Dunker immediately spots the Monkey King and just cuts that down. Now, cuts down the tree. We'll see if the Monkey King can be cut down. Looks like not. But they are going to be laying into Zoobs pretty heavily, and this is why I was surprised to see the Grimstroke go bottom, but they're prioritizing pressuring Infamous Amos here on the Juggernaut in the bottom lane with the Grimstroke Legion combo, more than they are prioritizing defending the Medusa. Now, granted, Monica has proven a great aptitude for bouncing back from rough early games, certainly no rougher than what was experienced in a couple of games last night, but still interesting laning setups. I suppose it's just the idea that the Monkey King is not going to be able to do too much, and in fact, maybe a little bit of a liability against Infamous Amos's laning power. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, that's where we're going to see a lot of the action happen, no doubt. 9 defending himself from Gachi's depredations with an early point of missile, so it looks like we're going to be going just the 4-4 build. Perhaps some points in the flat cannon, but this is not the usual Gyrocopter game where you're relying on having that skilled up by the time the laning phase ends to go and take stacks. If there are any stacks getting made, then they will almost certainly be for the Medusa. It looks like the patch may have changed how some of the keybinds work for camera controls. So if the camera is a little bit fuzzy for this game one, I'm going to blame that one, but I can't use the normal camera steering. In light of that, though, we're just going to press on. So, Dunker on the Mars up here, having a pretty good time topping the last hits table, which is not what I would have called, but that's why I'm not a betting man, I'm just a caster. And that might translate into a very, very powerful early mid game for the side of the Super Warrior Chads. Did you get that right? No hero deaths as of yet, but that's such a good sign when your lane with the Rubik in it is the one that's dominating the last hit chart. Medusa is at least getting some farm, but not even as much as her opposite number, the Juggernaut, across the map. So that's a clear sign of an early laning phase edge for the Chads. And when you have heroes like Mars and OD, being able to take that initiative early on is absolutely game-breaking. This Juggernaut can choose to come to fights or not. I'm not certain whether Amos will. I have a gut feeling that they will probably leave this Juggernaut to farm as a little bit of an insurance plan. They'll respect the potential, especially for high ground defense, out of this this LooneyMelb squad. But we can see Neo. I'm going to keep getting that wrong, apparently. Brawling with Samsara and Vorkwar. The Courier brawls with Samsara. It's not so much a street fighting beast and goes down, offering a small bounty. But yeah, just light scraps across the map. But you can see here how good Raccoon Chef is at knowing the limits of the hero and still finding ways to contribute. Sorry, as this Rubik's just hanging out in the top lane, denying the ability to pull creeps, messing with the Monkey King, and making sure there is no scenario where the Rubik might die. It's very important to keep the levels scaling here. To make sure that you're ready when they're ready to go. But Dunker, they jump on the Monkey King. The Monkey King not so careful about not stepping into harm's way, and they actually bully Monica all the way back to the tower. That's what you get for underestimating Dunker on the signature offlaner, and Mars's incredible bullying power for melee heroes extends even to those that aren't actively trying to hit creeps. One wrong step, speared to a tree, presumably a bit of a Rubik lift to help that out, and well, it's not all one-way traffic, at least, as the Dire are able to secure both water runes, so nice little rotation by Samsara there to make that happen, playing off the LC for a bit as the lane was pushed in. And Neo, I think getting some stacks up in the meantime, but at least moving to intercept and bully the Grim right back. Classic Ogre play here. Forces out the Inkswell. Just absolutely unperturbed by that damage. And yeah, things continue to go swimmingly. We're past the 1k gold lead mark, so definitely a winning laning phase for the Chads. I'm interested to see what 9 goes for on this Gyrocopter, as we see, yeah, that interaction there, the banishment, just completely negating the mid Gyrocopter's main pressure tool, the homing missile. I mean, you could argue that the homing missile is also kind of negating the impact of the astral imprisonment, but Gachi only has to put 1 point in that to make it worthwhile, whereas 9, you can see, is still maxing homing, so a lot more valuable resources being expended by the Gyro in that trade. Might change though when the Gyro is able to rotate. Obviously, if you're able to get out of that lane as soon as you hit level 6, jump the OD on the rotation, and land your spell combo with a cooldown on one of these side lanes, it will be absolutely devastating for sure. I mean, I'm certain that in their minds they'd ideally combine that with Vorkor hitting 6 and being able to actually succeed in a duel with the Gyrocopter's help, but things may not all line up quite so neatly for them. Especially since that, you know, if it's obvious to me, it's definitely obvious to the Chads, and they will be carefully keeping an eye on when these heroes have their levels. But Dunker getting pretty close to his 6 on the Mars, and that is an equally frightening tool. The Arena of Blood. And Vorkor making actually a play on Neo might get it. Does! Samsara finishes things off. Can they kill Infamous Amos as well? Was trying to apply the spin. Will slip away. The Juggernaut is just too quick, and more importantly, the tower is too close, and they will not be able to follow up. Dunker gets the ultimate and pushes back Monica into a tree, but actually they do go deeper into the trees after pulling back for just a moment. That was a false sense of security for Infamous Amos. He is killed under his own tier 1 as soon as we look away, so excellent gameplay. I'm not sure whether that was just a really heads-up snipe, and Monica, as soon as I look away again, I curse another carry. Both carries finding themselves with nowhere to go under their own tier 1s and brought down by the nukes of their opponents. So, again, not sure who that clearly favors, but Dunker is having a monster game already, and this Mars might get another kill here. What a spear! Just lobs it out at max range, finds Zoobs napping, and more importantly, just a really expert Mars player just knows the exact point when that Monkey King is turning, when there is no opportunity for the monkey. He's sort of like facing into the spear, and any path to evade would take so long to turn and move. There's no way out. It was a clean spear toss into the Rubik Nuke, another easy kill, and further extends the lead that this Mars has. Already the top of the last hits chart, which is pretty impressive when you're out CSing your own Outworld Destroyer as an offlaner. And when you add in 2 or 3 hero kills on top of that, this is going to be potentially a very early Blink Dagger. I was about to say a very early Armlet, but Dunker understands the responsibility on the team is much more about initiation. And I do agree. So you're going to see that Blink Dagger picked up much sooner than you might otherwise expect. Starts with the Phase Boots, though. And Vorkor probably feels like he has to hustle down here, because you're having an alright lane, but your opponent up top is having an excellent lane. And you know that Mars Arena is arguably a better tool than your own duel. It's certainly going to be able to make bigger impact plays around the map. You maybe have an advantage in cooldown, but you have to be using it for that to show up. So does 9 and Gachi continue to posture? The Ogre leaves bottom lane in order to contest a rune. This might be a window to try and land a duel on Amos. Does not have the Omni Slash just yet, waiting to get that XP up. But they teleport Samsara to the mid lane. There's a fight going on. Zoobs is actually in pretty deep. Got caught by Gachi with the imprisonment. Difficult to find yourself out of position, or rather punishing to find yourself out of position. It's difficult to get back to safety when you're against a heads-up OD player, and that's what happens to Zoobs. So any window to catch the Juggernaut without an ultimate and without a support in the lane with the duel is squandered, and all that Samsara gets for his trouble is to watch his friend die in person. Zoobs going down. Tough early game for Zoobs on the Monkey. Obviously, it's a pretty difficult assignment in the safe lane, but we'll be interested to see whether Zoobs can get back into that really dynamic scouting role he was able to play in yesterday's match. And Samsara, they're just watching Amos farm down here now. I don't know whether they're hopefully still waiting for the timing when they can contest this tier 1, but I think they have to be careful. Okay, they have been able to make stacks, so credit to the monkey for that. I'm assuming it's the monkey, perhaps the gyrocopter. But Monica is mopping these up right now really fast, so great way to recover. We'll quickly check the net worth to get a more accurate read on how these heroes are doing, but they haven't lost any towers yet at least, and in lieu of pressuring the enemy tier 1, I do think it's probably a better idea that they be focusing on this Deuce's farm, and, okay. Zoobs loses a courier, but honestly much better that Dunker and Raccoon Chef turn their baleful gaze on the monkey and his pet than they do the Medusa, who was pretty vulnerable there farming, but you can see that extra little injection of farm has elevated Monica to, at least in the realm of the Warrior Chad's cause, who are otherwise the top 3 net worths in the game, especially Gachi and Dunker, who have dominated their lanes pretty hard to this point. Dunker up to level 8 already and closing in on a Blink Dagger. Very impressive. Gachi's going to catch Samsara in the river. Forced to deny the Arcane Rune, though. Even that Banishment, not enough to secure it. So I guess that's a win. Especially as the presence of the Gyro discourages another support kill early on for this OD. But Gachi, you know that Gachi can only contain his aggression for so long. So I assume that once this Witchblade is complete, maybe the Force stuff, we will see OD going in hard. And in the meantime, the team's just kind of getting passive value out of the map very, very plentifully. There are some dire wards up in the jungle to watch this Juggernaut, but still no move to make the gank. It looks like Vorquar is also determined to finish farming a Blink and maybe the Soul Ring as well before we get this LC into action. And I can't argue with wanting to make sure that your core items are secured before you start gambling, especially with the potential to turn things around. It is a hard game to win duels, but it's giving a lot of space to their opponents. They use this space to take the tier 1 tower at top of the Dire, so that frees up the Mars to maybe make the rotation mid, but they're already rotating here on the side of LooneyMelb. The self-banish from Gachi is going to buy a lot of time, though, and here's Dunker with the arena. Zoob stuck in the middle, going to easily be the first to fall, thanks to Gachi's orb, so I mean, right there in a nutshell, you saw the advantage that they bring to the lineup with the OD. At least Vorquar arrives a little bit late, maybe intentionally. Now that the spells are thrown, and particularly the Astral Imprisonment has been used, they're able to get a cheap duel off on the Ogre Magi, but not the prize you came for. It does end up just being a support trade, but they lost their tier 1 tower in that process as well, while the tier 1 tower at bottom is still relatively healthy, and this Juggernaut was farming the entire time. Amos, though, not waiting for the enemy to actually get around to killing his tower and forcing him out of his lane. He leaves early, heads to the top lane where the enemy tier 1 is down. There is a Dire Ward already watching him, so they'll immediately know the Juggernaut's plan, and it might be interesting to see them actually pivot up top and try and make a gank play here. With the duel available, they can definitely kill this Juggernaut when he's alone. There's no spin TP reliable save that he can make for himself, so if they do sense that there's too much space being left around Juggernaut in the top by the side of Warrior Chads, I feel like it would be pretty profitable for them to run him down. But for now, they're just going to push the lane in with 9 on the Gyrocopter, who's building up a Blade Mail. And now I recall actually having seen 9's Gyrocopter a couple of times before. The first item, Blade Mail Gyrocopter, is a bit of a staple for this team. Usually last picked as well. And it's been a pretty effective counter, one might think, to the Mars at least. But I do worry about it against this OD. Obviously, you're going to have a BKB up early on, which is a very nice thing to have. But it doesn't necessarily seem like with this 3-core lineup and this sort of start, there's a ton of pressure to end early on the side of the Warrior Chads. You'd obviously rather not let the Medusa come online, but as long as you take a good enough early lead and you're able to itemize correctly, it does feel like you can just banish Monica repeatedly out of fights, punish the lack of a BKB that we're likely to see from this Dusa. She builds up towards her Manta now, slowly getting into that Medusa build, a couple of items away even from hitting peak farm efficiency, so you know, there's another 15-20 minutes on the clock easily before you have to really be afraid of Medusa game outcomes. But we'll see what 9 and Vorquar can do to put some fear into the Chads in the meantime. They are ganking Raccoon Chef, but Raccoon Chef is expertly poised in the trees. I'm not sure if Raccoon Chef was the original target all along, but standing absolutely perfectly concealed, and without the Zoob's Monkey King was looking for rotations from the tier 1, so that smoke goes to waste, and instead they pounce mid on 9's Gyrocopter with the Arena of Blood, and that is an easy core kill, so, you know, I'm going to try not to sound too much like a broken record harping on the vision, but Raccoon Chef, heads up support play, absolutely sniffed out that smoke, broke it effortlessly, and that play just fails to materialize while there's a huge dub in mid for the Warrior Chads. They're up to a 3k gold lead now. That fight obviously wasn't contributing too much individually to it, not that any fight will at this stage of the game, but just small play after small play like that is helping them out. They are scouted here roaming through the dire jungle, but I'm sure they don't care. Gachi's rocking their DD. They're getting wards up. And yeah, we'll have to see whether these are dewarded or whether these lead to a possible team fight or at least a gank on the Medusa. Zoobs is going to try and deward and has to quick smart it out of there as Gachi rolls up, kills his ward instead. So that's just 100 gold burned by the Monkey King support. Poorest hero in the game right now, which is obviously not really an indictment of Zoobs' play, but does limit what the Monkey can expect in terms of impact later on in fights. You know, you would really love to have some of those items that synergize well with the command. Looks like Zoobs is just going to commit to a Wraith Pact, though, and you can't blame him. And Raccoon Chef catches Samsara. Not quite as mobile as the Monkey King, and so when he gets caught dewarding, that is a death for the Grimstroke. And Raccoon Chef, as anticipated, having a great time on this Rubik, gets a spear from the Mars and an arena combo. Is that they've caught the Gyrocopter again just in front of his tower on the exact same spot, practically on the cooldown of the arena. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad move by default. I mean, you had Monica right there to pop the Stone Gaze, but I think it's one of those instances where you feel as though you've got your bets hedged against some sort of aggression, and you realize as soon as the aggression comes that you were not ready for this level of force, but they're actually pursuing past the tower, even without the Arena of Blood. It's a pretty easy kill on the Grimstroke for the side of the Ultra Super Warrior Chads. They just kind of walk into the Soulbind. They don't care. Gachi follows up. They kill Samsara. They dare Vorkor to go in and duel someone, and I have to say, this Legion Commander right now, looking like a pretty poor Mars substitute. Vorkor was great on Mars in, I believe, all 3 games, or 2 out of 3 games yesterday, at least the 2 games they won. And it's not that Vorkor is necessarily not playing Legion Commander well, but you can see the gulf between Duel and between Mars's Arena in fights. It also obviously helps that the initiative in this game has been so thoroughly seized, both by their draft and by their, laning phase dubs by the side of the Warrior Chads. Both of these heroes would much rather be starting a fight on their own terms, blink on a target and kill them. And it's much harder to commit to a duel, especially when your team is already in full retreat from an Arena of Blood. But we'll see, if you want to change that, you've got to get together, you've got to smoke up, and you've got to pick a target. But there are positives for the side of LooneyMelb. Monica is stably farming away and kind of closing in on that Manta style, which will help a lot, not just with farm speed, but also with the push. And 9 on the Gyrocopter can maybe be sacrificed, so long as the Medusa is doing well. But can your buildings be sacrificed is the question that I sense we are going to ask of them soon. 9 tries to move in. They see that the Roshan goes down. It's actually Gachi who picks up the Aegis. It's going to be 9 who picks up a death. Monica is in the fight with the Stone Gaze, but we're really just kind of trying to hedge a little bit, shade over towards that fight, as some players would say, and maybe bail out a teammate with that ultimate. Forced to then slither all the way back to the tier 2 tower, but going to get speared all the way back in front of it and dies immediately. Dominating streak for Raccoon Chef. That's the firepower of the Warrior Chads, and they have this game extremely well in hand. No sooner do I point out that, the Medusa is still farming well and they've got some chances to turn this around in the late game, as they lose 3 or 4 heroes in a series of, again, really awkward engagements. Calling them engagements at all is a bit flattering. There hasn't been a single time it feels like that these two teams have clashed in really the whole game, certainly since the laning phase, when it seemed like LooneyMelb want any part of the Warrior Chads at all. They are constantly on the back foot, on the retreat, and even as their Medusa dies and their Monkey King dies, items uncompleted, infamous Amos has, finished the Maelstrom and is building towards a Diffusal Blade. They are definitely trying to accelerate this timing, but here comes that smoke play I talked about. Monica's not in it. This will be space for Monica regardless of whether the duel is successful or not. But they're going in blind here. They don't have the vision that was so important to them last game, and they have to try and figure out where Amos is in the jungle. They do a quick sweep. They do get a ward down with this smoke, and they're closing in deeper. The Dire are pressuring their tier 2 top, though, so you have to imagine they've figured out that something's going on, and that's why Amos doesn't do the last neutral camp. Farms back towards the mid lane. Can they go anyway? They waste the Inkswell, and they fall back. The Warrior Chads are just too clean. They completely read that potential smoke. And now Amos kind of just dangling himself out there as a bait. Gets the spin-off as he's dueled. So immune to any potential magic. And Samsara did not have spell-based follow-up. In fact, 9 had already long since given up on the gank. So that duel just goes absolutely nowhere. And now the double arena as they try to retreat. They retreat in 2 straight to line up the mid lane. An easy pounce for Dunker. Dunker, this game is going disastrously for LooneyMelb. I'm sure that they're keeping a good mental game. They showed such resilience yesterday, and they said it themselves, you know. They're assuming a bit of an underdog role. They didn't expect to be here. They're taking it as, you know, almost like a bonus series, but you still are here to win the grand final. And right now, in game 1, it is the Super Warrior Chads who are staking their claim as the dominant team here. Neo does lose a courier. Monkey King absolutely doing his best. Zoob's trying to chase down even more couriers. Maybe catches the Rubik's one. Nice primal spring. Okay. Yeah, the tree dance is not going to be good enough to catch up to that, but unfortunately, in the important part of the game, Infamous Amos is about to go melee barracks, or is he? Gets the Omni Slash off. There's just not enough. Disable. This Legion Commander pick has not worked out. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say that it was out and out a drafting loss, but with the way the game has gone, the LC just doesn't offer a decisive enough bit of counter initiation. And you can see even having the cast time on the duel is not good enough. And GG is just called. That's a mid-racks before 20 minutes. And even with Monica having kept up on farm the whole game on the Medusa, the Super Warrior Chads prove that that is not important. The Medusa needs to have 4 items at least before they can really start to contest things. And especially without being able to buy a BKB really is one of those items. It might be even longer before Monica is able to contribute. They just don't have that time. It's not clear they would have even been able to get the Super Warrior Chads out of their base. And so, a very fast game 1, flat 20 minutes here. LooneyMelb, they bow out. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. They're going to have to figure out something different for their mid lane. 9 tried the Gyrocopter, and against the OD, there was just nothing to be done. And when Gachi and Dunker both win their lanes that hard, the mid-game, it was already scary. It became irresistible. So, you know, not much more to say about that, but at least maybe LooneyMelb can focus on the laning phase in the next draft. Try and maybe even secure ultimate final pick if that's what it takes to outpick Gachi and give yourself some kind of mid-lane advantage. And we'll be back to see whether they can stretch it to a 3-gamer here in the grand finals of the AEL Uni League Season 1 2022. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to the Grand Finals, actually, the last day here of AEL Uni League Dota 2 for Season 1 of 2022 at least. Of course, it's not obviously the last day of broadcasting for AEL Uni League Dota 2. That will hopefully go on forever, and if you are interested in signing up, registration's open on June 21st for Season 2 of 2022. The actual games will start sometime in the first week of August, so lots of time to get your teams in, but hey, start thinking about it now, because you could be the ones to come in and be the next challenger against whichever team does eventually come out on top between the UQ, Super Warrior Chads, and LooneyMelb right here. Obviously, if you were tuned in a few minutes ago for Game 1, you saw LooneyMelb maybe a little bit of hangover from their heroics in the lower bracket finals last night. They took a dive. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't slow. It was just Gachi dominating the mid lane on Outworld Devourer, a final pick. And, of course, Dunker running roughshod over the offlane with the signature Mars. So one or both of those heroes probably going to be targeted for removal in the banning phase by LooneyMelb, one would imagine. And LooneyMelb, they may also even want to secure the final pick of the game, because it does seem like Gachi right now is just too much of a weapon in the mid lane. They struggle to control him, and especially given the chance to pick his matchup, they were able to really hard counter poor Nine, who has had a rough string of games working out of the mid here for LooneyMelb. But the players are about to start Game 2 right now, just sorting out the particulars of sides and picks. So as soon as we have that game ready, we'll be jumping right back in for what could be the final map of the season. Obviously, LooneyMelb fans out there, Melbourne fans in general, I mean, to come clean, I'm a Melbourne boy. I'd love to see LooneyMelb bounce back and take this to a Game 3, especially after they did such a good job last night of reverse sweeping after a difficult Game 1 against U of Andros, where they were similarly just smashed into the ground. So they showed they're resilient, they showed they're adaptable, it's a strength of theirs, and now we'll see whether or not they can be resilient and adaptable against a team with the absolute chutzpah of the Super Warrior Chads, with the bullish attitude to Dota, with the skills, with the laning phase, to really just dominate teams out of the game early on. The Warrior Chads have only lost a single series this whole season. It was back in the Swiss stage. Other than that, they have been incredible. I guess they had a draw in the Swiss as well. Other than that, though, they have been incredibly clean, and they have looked devastatingly effective in all their wins. Not really a lot of close games for Gachi and company, and we know they have deep hero pools. We know that the true center of those hero pools, they're some of the best players of their signature heroes in the region. So LooneyMelb, they're going to have their work cut out, but they're going to start with the exact same bans they started with in Game 1. It's going to be an interesting way to approach the draft. You have to think they're going to change something, but maybe they feel as though the draft deficit wasn't as big as it looked. They do have first overall pick, and I'd love to see them take the Mars. I'd love to see them deny that pick to Dunker, and more importantly, secure it for Vorkor. Vorkor just could not get into the game in Game 1 on Legion Commander. It definitely wasn't an apt substitute for that offlane initiator. They love to play around on LooneyMelb, and we've seen Vorkor do so well on that Mars in so many games. I have to imagine it will be their first pick. Great choice, but the Warrior Chads, they are ever ready for this. They respond with not CK Grimstroke, but Grimstroke Juggernaut. They're happy to put Infamous Amos back on the Jug, as they are seemingly in nearly every game, even when there's patches, even when there's changes, even when other heroes are more in the meta. They love this Jug. And LooneyMelb, they go for a hero that was banned out in Game 1 and otherwise pretty much absent for this entire season. They snap up that Riki. They went, well, you were afraid of enough of this to ban it out, so let's grab this Juggernaut counter. And certainly a lot harder for Infamous Amos to slip the noose in multiple ganks, as we saw him do in Game 1, just spinning out of there or blinking and omni-slashing away from duel attempts. If you are covered in that cloud, that can be the difference between escaping a Mars Arena or not. And now they have this 1-2 combo. LooneyMelb are looking strong. The question for me is, will this be a core Riki? Because you almost exclusively see core Riki, right? It's been a very long time, back in the Invisibility Level 1 days, I think, before we since we last saw like 4-position or 5-position Riki running around with Orb of Venom level 1 and making a nuisance of himself. But it does seem like the kind of melee hero that Zoobs has been enjoying playing as a kind of vision provider. I don't know that Zoobs necessarily enjoyed the Monkey King game he had in game 1, but I don't think anyone from LooneyMelb had a really great time there. So perhaps Ricky is going to be the secret sauce for them with that high mobility and with the ability to apply silences, try and control some of these spellcasting heroes a bit more, combo with the arena, follow up on the arena, what have you. Remains to be seen. At least they have options. It's a better start to the draft than they had in game 1, I think. I think this Mars is just too integral to the way they play Dota, and if indeed LooneyMelb do bounce back, and they do drag this to a game 3, and the Warrior Chads don't want to first pick the Mars, I honestly think banning the Mars, absolute first phase, just removing any chance of Valk while playing it, might be your best move. But the Warrior Chads, they chose to instead ban Pangoli and Pugna. Definitely heroes that combo well with the Mars. Definitely heroes that, you know, Nine has proven capable of playing, or Zoobs has proven capable of playing, or Samsara in the case of the Pugna has proven capable of playing. But they are replaceable in the lineup, much more so than this Mars pick is. Other supports being banned out as well, so definitely a lot of respect being put on Zoobs and Samsara's names. But it's also just a matter of enabling the Juggernaut, right? You don't want the hero that you've targeted for an Omni Slash to get Decrepified or Cold Embraced. You definitely don't want to get Winter's Cursed while you're trying to spin out of somewhere. And LooneyMelb, they instead target a bunch of core heroes, taking out Bloodseeker, Invoker, and again the Lone Druid. They're just trying to cut down on the number of ways that Gachi can slice and dice them apart, but you know this man is apt to beat you with just about any hero in Dota. It's got to be more about the mid lane matchup, I feel like, and maybe a little bit about bringing help over. Like, they did it a tiny amount. Samsara was able to contest some runes out of the off lane as the Grimstroke, but whether or not it was because of the heat being put on those side lanes, or just the heroes they picked, or the fact that they swapped the laning positions of their support players on the sides of LooneyMelb for that game 1, but they just weren't able to really ever shade over to the mid lane enough to change the equation in the Gyrocopter OD matchup, and Gachi just ran away with that one. Maybe a little bit less only than Dunker did. A lot of time being now used. Final ban from the Warrior Chads is the Phoenix, so they were paying attention. Zoobs got to play the Phoenix in Game 3 last night of the lower bracket final and was as instrumental as any player on his team, if not every player on his team, in turning it around. The Sunray is just so potent in the current meta. It's such an effective combination with spells like the Mars Arena that are effective at determining when the fight takes place and at stalling the fight out. And of course, obviously, the Arena has extra special synergy, as Mars does in general, absorbing projectiles aimed at the egg through the bulwark and through the arena walls. So that combo denied from them, and instead the Warrior Chads, they will match Invisible Scouting Hero with Invisible Scouting Hero, and what's more, theirs has built-in invisibility counter. It's the Bounty Hunter. And I must say, this is probably the most Bounty Hunter roster I can think of in this competition. If you want a team that is going to be getting enough kills and having enough fights take place to justify picking up Bounty, this is definitely the team for it. I imagine we will be seeing a lot of track gold brought in to the Super Warrior Chads, especially if they can get some mobile, high kill potential offlaner and mid laner heroes here in the last phase, if they can sneak them through the bans. But it is still, you know, in as much as this is the first Ricky I've seen in the wild, it's the first Bounty Hunter I've seen in a while. So we'll see what they do with it. Maybe they even play it core, who knows. Maybe Gachi's going to run a mid Bounty Hunter and run all over them. We've seen all sorts of kooky, crazy things in Oz Dota over the years, especially when teams are confident and playing at their best, playing at their peak, playing at their best, which is certainly where the Super Warrior Chads are after that game 1. It's really hard to argue that. LooneyMelb, though, they go to the Vengeful Spirit. Now, they played this as a mid laner last night. Again, not certain if that's going to be the case here, but it's a threat that the Super Warrior Chads will have to consider if they were paying attention to those team compositions, to those games. And maybe that's enough, right? But the core Venge maybe indicates that they don't mind as much losing the mid lane. It's kind of, you don't ever pick a hero to lose mid, but Venge, as with when they played it last night, it's not a focal point of their lineup. It's certainly not a hero that's super item and level dependent in as much as some mids are. And as long as you can get up the Aghanim Scepter and maybe something like a Desolator, you're doing enough damage, and obviously you're contributing to your team through your swap and your stun and your auras enough that the hero justifies itself. So long as Monica's having a good game. And they go for the Lich. So again, digging deep into the well of supports after a lot of great 5-position babysitters have been banned already. And again, the question is going to be, is this going to be a core Riki, or is this your support? Is your support duo Lich Riki? Is your support duo Lich Venge? We'll have to wait and see. One more pick, very likely to be the mid laner for LooneyMelb. Super Warrior Chads, if they haven't shown their own mid laner, you imagine they're going to leave it to last pick as well. And somehow, Gachi has once again secured the final pick of the draft for his hero. Now, that's assuming that this isn't a Gachi Viper. Viper is entering the draft on the side of the Super Warrior Chads. This could easily be in anticipation of a melee safe laner, whether it's the Riki or something else, and this could be easily the off laner, so Bounty Viper off lane, kind of sniffing that, ready to just exploit the presence of a vulnerable melee hero and a more, we'll say a less kill-focused support, like a Lich, or depending, unless your core hero is bringing out a ton of damage here, you just might not be able to threaten a kill on the Viper, and that not only allows the Viper to rain havoc on your carry while they try to last hit, but it frees up the Bounty Hunter to make some early rotations and secure Gachi's laning phase even more over in the mid. Of course, this is all speculation, and LooneyMelb could still go back for a higher damage carry, but the Viper does throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Like, what do they want? What's still on the table? The Bloodseeker's banned out. The Huskar is now banned out. That's by LooneyMelb. The Medusa has also been removed as we all zero in players and spectators on Monica's hero. I don't believe we saw Monica play the Chaos Knight last night because it was a priority pick for their opponents, U of Andros. But Chaos Knight might be a hero that could survive in this sort of world. You're tanky enough to endure Juggernaut spells. You're a hard kill for a hero like Bounty Hunter. And a hero like Viper, maybe you can try to wear you down in lane, but you have sustain. And maybe you can try to kite you, but you have a lot of illusions and a reality rift. So single target slows are not as impactful against the CK as they are against other heroes. So, okay, the OD and the Huskar are the last two bans. LooneyMelb trying as best they can to protect themselves against an ignoble exit from this Grand Finals in Game 2 at the hands of a cheesy Gachi mid-pick. But we'll have to find out, what is the actual mid-pick going to be? What is the weapon of choice for the captain of the Chads in perhaps their crowning moment of the season? They ban out the Puck, because they know that LooneyMelb are going to have to pick a mid hero in the dark here, if they haven't, again, already selected their mid in the form of 9. But it's interesting that they ban the Medusa away from Monica, and then they take out the Puck. Maybe that implies something about their mid laner, right? Like, if you have a mid laner who's scared of Stonegaze and scared of Dreamcoil, that implies a real hit and run, highly mobile character. And okay, I like this from LooneyMelb. They go all the way in terms of non-standard cores. This is going to be, it seems like, either a Nature's Riki Mars core lineup or a Nature's Vengeful Mars core lineup. I suppose that could even be a Prophet support, but I anticipate this being a core Prophet. It's a great pick against a hero like a Juggernaut. Even a hero like a Bounty Hunter. It's like, if you want to fight, unless you are starting the fight on the Nature's Prophet every time, then you can assume we are going to be able to have +1 core hero at that fight over you. Basically always. We'll just global TP in our Natures. You can pump out the physical damage onto the Juggernaut at range. The new rooting tree sprout, once you get that talent, is very effective against these sorts of melee heroes. And even a sort of static, slow-moving hero like Viper. And the Natures at least can try to position himself out of harm's way. Of course, this again relies on you not being the one who's initiated on, relies on the Bounty Hunter not being able to track down the Prophet first and lead a gank into his position. But it does give them something to play with, and Gachi goes back for the Void Spirit. As expected, it's going to be his hero to close out the draft. It is going to be the offlane Viper Bounty combo, as I anticipated. Gachi on the Void Spirit, going to be trying to react to 9's movements on the mid Nature's Prophet. It is going to be the support Venge. It is going to be Monica on the Riki, after all, not intimidated by the Viper laning phase and the Bounty Hunter counter later on. They are all in on this early game Riki, and I love to see it. LooneyMelb, they got their Mars. They picked Monica's hero nice and early. They kept their draft as open as they possibly could. They've tried as hard as they can not be countered. And the Chads, other than having some tools against the Riki, they are kind of just picking their own strong heroes, strong lanes. They are of the attitude for sure that so long as their lanes go well and they have an early gold lead, they're going to be able to find the plays that turn that into a bigger and a bigger lead and just snowball the game like they did in game 1. But that's what UOM thought as well a mere 24 hours ago, and look where they ended up in the dustbin of history. A mere third place winner. Congratulations to you, Evandros and Andros and all of the rest of the team for their efforts. It was a great series, and I really appreciate the effort you put in. Hope to see you back next season. But this is the grand finals, and for our purposes, they are losers. If you aren't first, you're last, baby. And if LooneyMelb want to be first, they have to stand up and fight now. They have to put up more of a struggle. They can't just let Gachi and company walk this in. And I trust him to do that. They're a fighting team after all, and when Vorkor is on his Mars, I imagine they're going to look like a very different squad. So let's see it. Potentially the final game of Season 1 of the Uni League. It's going to start with a pause. Take the opportunity... No, look, we'll save the sponsors till after this game. Well, we might have to thank the sponsors on the way out. But hopefully this is a short pause. We'll quickly run down the heroes, though. Gachi on the Void Spirit, as I said. Gonna be attempting to once again lead from the front. High mobility, high skill cap, high kill threat hero. All across the map going to try and just bewilder and break the ankles of his opponents. Raccoon Chef going to be the one quietly enabling that on the Bounty Hunter. Again, like the Rubik, a very kind of hit or miss support hero. Really takes a skillful and experienced player to make the most of this and the right team, but they're always very good at enabling Raccoon Chef. So we'll see how that goes. Infamous Amos, rock solid on this Juggernaut. The team love to pick it for him. He loves to play it. Neo going to be ably supporting the Juggernaut on the Grimstroke this time, so potentially an even stronger lane than they had in game 1. Really going to put some kill threat onto the Mars and try to bully the Mars out of lane. And Dunker on the Viper going to be doing the same to the Riki. We'll see how well the Riki survives the withering onslaught of poison attacks. But over on the other side, with their backs against the wall, it is your threats, your underdogs, your LooneyMelb University of Melbourne team led by Vorkor, Twitch TV/Vorkor. Shoutouts to Vor. Follow that stream for some great Dota 2 action. Of course, Zoob's also the Vengeful Spirit player here, going to be helping Vorkor out in that offlane. That's going to be some fireworks show and a half against Amos and Neo. But 9 is going to also be a real focal point this game, rocking out on the natures. And, I mean, might be a difficult laning experience. Gachi did again get the final pick of the draft on this Void Spirit, looking to fully establish dominance. But, you know, Nature's Prophet's a hard hero to stop and can maybe even out-rotate the Astral Step and Void Spirit. That's definitely the plan here. Samsara going to be doing what the team needs done on the Lich, you know. Every team needs a glue player. Every team needs someone to do the dirty work, and Samsara has done a lot of work for them in the last couple of nights of Dota. Monica on that Riki has been the team's most consistent player, you'd probably say. Certainly has been able to put the head down and get work done as the carry in some very difficult spots, but Riki's a pretty different hero to what we've been seeing Monica play, right? Definitely not the PL, not the Medusa kind of hero. I don't know if we're going to be seeing some sort of Riki farming build. I know that Riki Battle Fury certainly had a patch or two where it was the way that you play this hero. I don't know that that's still true, and I don't know whether that's what Monica will be given the space to farm. Who knows whether that's even the plan? Maybe this is the game where, you know, with it all on the line, they're going to gamble a little bit and say, hey, Monica, come to fights. Let's us try and take the tempo away from them. Certainly that's something that you could use this Mars Nature's Prophet setup to do. Or maybe it's just going to be their regular game plan of fighting on the opposite side of the map, creating space for Monica, and only having Monica show up to fights when they are most favorable to a carry player. Good sportsmanship coming out as the Warrior Chad squad move to the opposite numbered jungle, and, you know, the LooneyMelb do the same. Everyone just setting up on the bounties, except for Monica, setting up on the tier 1. the LoL enjoyer might have to start downloading that League of Legends client if this game goes as much south as the first one did. It was a brutal defeat in game 1, and I am a little bit worried for LooneyMelb. They were making a show before this game started of how they didn't expect to be here and how they weren't sure they were going to be able to play. I'm not sure why that would be or what stress they might be under having made the time, and credit to them for making it happen and not disrupting the grand finals. But, you know, maybe that's adding to the pressure on them in some ways, and definitely it's going to hurt to not get off the ground in game 1, but they have a second chance here in this best of 3, and they're going to make the most of it. Zoobs and Neo brawling in the jungle, and battle is met in the mid lane as well. We'll see how this lane goes for 9 on the NP. In top lane, though, as you'd expect, Monica immediately getting bullied in the top lane. Samsara a little slow to get to lane, and Raccoon Chef has gone for the level 1 Janata. No longer a passive. You can set it to auto cast, but it is now an on cooldown, sort of almost like an orb. You just trigger that on heroes. Actually, is this... I believe it's no longer a passive. I'm not a bounty hunter player. But wow, Monica gets the first blood on Dunker. I'm not sure what happened there. I mean, Raccoon Chef on the bounty hunter obviously is not going to provide a save or anything, but Viper, you would have thought would have had the props to survive. Rikamaru's damage level 1, not the most potent, but just a couple of charges of Blink Strike, maybe a slight overcommitment into the creep wave, and a slow from the Lich is all it took. That's a huge dub. I was so caught off guard by that death. I was expecting maybe a brawl in the mid lane or even bottom lane with the Juggernaut spin, you know. That kind of seems like where the first blood's going to happen. But Monica stepping up and delivering, of course, Samsara as well, to secure a bit more early control in this laning phase than one might expect. Samsara, though, has to be careful. You don't want to overstep in your own right. Looks like we are going to be seeing a kill back the other way, although Fairy Fire keeping the Lich alive for now. 6 stacks of poison attack. It's not going to keep him alive for long. And there is more of the stuff that I expected to see. At least just the support, not the carry, but Viper is a menace in these lanes. That being said, early last hits going the complete opposite way to what they did last game. All lanes, at least very, very early on, favoring the Dire, favoring the side of LooneyMelb. We'll see whether they can keep that up, but noteworthily, huge denies coming out of the Nature's Prophet in the mid lane, starting with a Blightstone and a Quelling Blade to try and out-CS the melee Void Spirit. Poor Gachi. Gonna have to catch up a little bit. Meanwhile, looks like everyone's having a little bit of trouble pulling. Although Neo actually was able to clear this camp, or maybe didn't have it blocked in the first place, gets a nice half pull off. That's going to do wonders to help this lane out, giving the Juggernaut room to pursue, keeping Vorkwar away from the tower, as Mars always an asset, going to, at the very least, limit the rotations that Zoobs likes to make, and it is Zoobs back in the offlane, so they have restored their traditional or usual laning duos here, which is nice to see for LooneyMelb. I'm sure that's a comfort thing that helps out, if nothing else. And 9 continues to just muscle Gachi out of the last hits in the mid lane. Really nice clicking. Obviously, Prophet's got a bit of an edge in these situations, but it's still impressive stuff given as a player of Gachi's caliber. And how Gachi was able to absolutely ruin the lane last game. And there is the classic setup. Mars into the Grimstroke in the lane. We've seen it a couple of times in the last couple of nights, but the spear, pretty effective counter, if not to the spin, then to the swell. And if Amos had the reactions to cancel that, wasn't interested in doing so. Bit of a blow, though, to Monica as the courier gets sniped by Raccoon Chef, Bounty Hunter. I'm not sure who's putting out bounties on small, you know, slowly walking animals, but he is ready to collect them all. And down in the bottom lane, we're going to see some bounties collected on some bigger targets. Infamous Amos. Surely this finishes off Vorkwar, and yeah, no Fairy Fire, no stick charges. Neo gets the final hit there. That's just the power of a Juggernaut, I'm afraid, and even the foot speed of a Juggernaut is going to perhaps elude Zoobs here. The healing ward of the Juggernaut going to bring him back up out of lethal health range. So, big win in the bottom lane, medium win in the top lane. In the mid lane, 9 continues to hold serve, but Gachi is definitely keeping in touch. Samsara at least has this nice stack going. Raccoon Chef going to try and stop the pull, but I don't know. Okay, is able to collect all of the creeps with a well-timed auto. But yeah, things at least going better, certainly, than they were in Game 1 at this point in time for LooneyMelb. You definitely don't want to hyper-focus on shutting down Amos. It's good to do, But, you know, we know who this team likes to play around. And, in fact, for both these teams, they don't mind sacking, you know, their 1 and 2 position, or one or 2 position, I should say. So long as their offlaner gets a good start and one of their heroes feels strong enough to play around. You know, we've seen it be Vorquar and 9 repeatedly on the side of LooneyMelb, and obviously Gachi and Dunka on the side of the Chads. So long as they have that ability to make plays, they know that whoever their core player is who's falling behind will be able to catch back up. And 9's courier gets sniped now as Raccoon Chef makes a detour over to the mid lane. Scouts out 9 farming. Gonna have to be careful though. Zoobs is making a casual rotation over, holding a sentry, which I'm sure will be very much scouted and accounted for, but Raccoon Chef even gonna show tapping at that Venge, making sure there's no completion on that gank. And even being kind of expected Gachi to come over, but Gachi's like, I'm hitting level 6, bro. I'm 2 creeps away. Hold on. So, Vengeful Spirit spared by the timing of that level 6 on the Void Spirit, but it's there now. So now the combo's online. They immediately go for 9. Raccoon Chef, just a bit of a slow, mostly just there to participate and pinch a bit of gold, but Gachi with that level 6. That's what I was afraid of. I mean, this is just Gachi getting to counterpick you again. There is no way that the Nature's Prophet at this point in the game can defend himself against that kind of damage and that kind of mobility. No Sprout will save you there. There's no time to teleport. There's only a swift death. And until your Venge has swap, at least you are going to keep eating it in those situations. But on the flip side, Infamous Amos looks like dived the tower to try and kill Vorquar and was just unsuccessful. And what's more, unsuccessful to the point that he actually dies to the tower. 9 could have come in to complete that kill, but instead gets to just mop up the support. So, you know, this is definitely more of a two-way street, this game, than the first one. Monica, meanwhile, farming up in top lane, getting a bit antsy here, starting to fight the Dunka Viper. Has level 6, couple levels up in the Blink Strike, and Monica knows this hero's limits well. This respect ban in the first game seems like it was merited, so Dunka takes the second death on this Viper, and just like the Legion in game 1, I'm starting to be a little bit concerned that this Viper maybe isn't going to do all that, you know, it was hoped to do when it was picked. Maybe Mars is the only good offlaner in Dota 2, it's hard to say. Mars and Underlord, I guess, who's been repeatedly first phase banned. 9, under pressure again, level 6 on the Prophet now, but that's certainly not going to help if you get tracked and spun bootsless presently after the death of his courier and trying to still play like an aggressive mid laner. It's going to be a costly death because Zoobs now also goes down and there's no defense for the Mars either. 5 Radiant heroes arrive in the bottom lane and Infamous Amos from downtown is the one picking up the kill. Bit of an Omni Slash and yeah, gold flowing back the opposite way. Monica did at least have a catapult wave there, so getting some pretty meaningful damage in on the top tower after all the heroes desert the lane. But 9 having a worrying start. They definitely need him to be strong as Nature's Prophet. It's a much easier hero to play from in front as a core than from behind. Basically impossible to play from behind against this lineup. And unfortunately, that courier kill has snowballed into a couple of deaths that you might not have taken otherwise. You do have the items delivered to yourself now, obviously, but yeah, that's still just power treads, and we'll check the net worth chart, but I have a feeling falling a bit behind, yeah, the other core heroes. Keeping up-ish, but Nature's Prophet obviously wants to be a lot ahead. You need to be using the gold. You need more gold than your opponents because the hero is not the most efficient at using it, especially early game. Later on, the hero's famous stat growth might kick in a little bit, but for now, you are an items baby, and that Orchid will be the first item, it looks like, still. Just judging by the quick buy. Certainly might help even the playing field in terms of the Void Spirit and 9 being able to jump each other. We see the laning phase start to break down. Everyone spreads out. On the side of the Chads, it's to stack and farm. But a little bit more buddy system Dota being played here by LooneyMelb. Maybe they want more towers. Maybe they just know that there's a bounty hunter lurking and they're anticipating some sort of smoke, some sort of gank play, but Gachi's going to show in the mid. It's just a bit of a, it's actually a false sense of security. They're trying to trick Monica and they successfully see Monica slide out of the safety of his tower. Tricks of the trade, going to buy some time, tries to blink strike back into the creeps, gets the double blink away, and Samsara, they weren't able to pin down Monica. The double blink is too fast, so the Lich will die. Arguably, Samsara didn't even need to be there, but certainly was enough to distract things. And now they turn Vorkor under the tower. This is just like Game 2 of last night's series. A little bit of extra aggression here in Game 2 doesn't work as well as it did in Game 1 for a number of reasons. And now Vorkor on the Mars, you can see the difference. Teleports in, hits the arena, 2 kills the opposite way. Void Spirit, wow, roamed all the way up to top to try and find Monica, but I don't know what sort of spells. Gachi, I think, just kind of tossed a bunch of AoEs around at Monica, where Monica likely was, and look, it shows you the kind of steel trap mind that Gachi's playing with, that the Void Spirit was pretty close to where the Rikamaru was invisibly, but without actual detection on board, you're not going to get that kill. Does have some dust in the backpack now, though, and a smoke, so Gachi definitely contemplating his potential role as the Ricky Hunter. But the gold lead evening out again here. Jug still top of the charts, but it's pretty split across all the cores. The Viper in particular has been taking a beating. The Mars has had a solid start, but the Bounty Hunter is currently richer than his own 3-position Viper. And with Nether Toxin not being maxed, Dunker doesn't really have a farming mechanism ready. He's just a treads holder right now. No real items. I don't know if there's a courier flying out to the Viper or not. Doesn't look like it, so yeah, just gonna have to play a very slow recovery game or accept basically transition to a support. Maybe the team just tries to fight around the Viper and hope the track gold can get Dunker back into it. But after absolutely dominating the net worth chart in Game 1, you see the Brutes well and truly on the other foot. And, Neo got a little bit cheeky on Vorkor while he's trying to farm there. Gets imprisoned in the trees by the Nature's Prophet, and then imprisoned in the arena by the Mars. And the team go, that's a whole arena for our support. We can fight here. We want to fight here. We are a Bounty Hunter Void Spirit team. They're trying to track down somebody, and they're certainly getting the tracks off, but no one's down. Zoobs gets a stun. Vorkor follows up with a spear, and that is a very well-disciplined retreat from the Dire. They knew as soon as they used that arena, they were not expecting that the Chads, the warrior Chads, would back down from that fight. And so they were immediately hightailing it out of there. But they keep their retreat in good order, and they fend off a bit of aggression. Gachi just has to fall back and gank this tier 1 tower instead. But Monica has just been farming down bottom, now walking the creep wave into a tier 2. Raccoon Chef is really just a non-issue, at least alone. And 9, you know, you could try and follow up on this Ricky, but I'm sure Monica knows that 9 is destroying the mid-tier 1. So, I mean, go ahead and try and do some sort of very telegraphed gank if you want. Neo does kind of rub it in a little bit by denying the mid-tier 1, so big support player flex there. Lets them know with the voice line. Interested to see what the win percentage chart has. So you can see the win percentage is Dire favored, but the gold is skyrocketing up in favor of the Juggernaut. Infamous Amos, I believe, just basically bought a battle. That must have been a pile of stacks. But gold now going even further their way. They kill off Monica in the mid lane thanks to Dunker. Infamous Amos just kind of rolls down out of the triangle, picks up 2 kills. That's 3 kills for the team, spins onto the other support. There's a buyback even from Zoops. They want to get some sort of retaliation here. The arena was used already, so I'm not sure what they're trying to play with, and they will be forced to fall back without any red meat to show for that buyback. So that's a blow. That fight came out of nowhere. Where did that gold injection come from? I guess they got a tower, and maybe the tower by itself is enough to cause that kind of swing. Probably also some stacks being taken. I was just surprised because, like, I thought, oh, Juggernaut must have already completed his Battle Fury somehow and have taken some stacks, but whether they did it as a team, whether it was all the tower, hard to say. What we do know is that, especially after that fight, Gold Lead is back out to 2k+, and now Monica walks in the lane and starts farming just on top of Bounty Hunter. Raccoon Chef gives it a minute, lets Monica know, hey, you're tracked, buddy. Watch out. And how discouraged will Monica be? This is not entirely a bluff. Gachi is up in the top lane. They show. But they're mostly on a dewarding mission. It's not so much about being able to always kill Monica as it's about making Monica feel unsafe. But Monica is the one who wants kills. Goes in, gets silenced by the Phantom's Embrace, and then clears it off to immediately go back in. 9 has arrived, able to sprout Raccoon Chef, but there's no root talent just yet to tether the Bounty Hunter in place. So a Quelling Blade will bail out him from that gank or counter gank attempt. Nearly every hero suddenly in the top lane, except Dunker, playing that recovery game. But suddenly, after a good fight and, you know, a good little room to farm there, ahead of the Mars in net worth. Though it is a very fun game, we are very early on. We are dealing with small margins of leads here relative to, you know, the gold that can be acquired on the map. So still anyone's game. But, you know, a little bit of a rally. Oh, they go on the Viper at bottom lane, but they don't have a stun. Zoob's just not there in time with the swap or the missile. And so Dunk is able to slip away. Okay, maybe a little bit more luck for Vorkor. Pretty hard for Raccoon Chef to slip out of this one. As long as they have the damage, and they do. Nine's ultimate arrives in the nick of time. Not even forced to use the Orchid there. And Vorkor buys the blink after that kill. So tracked up. If they're paying close attention, they might have realized. But they now have to watch out for Blink Arena, or at least they will in a minute when Arena is off cooldown again. Nine, for his part, has that Orchid Malevolence, uses it on the Jugs, that's announced, but they don't have any sort of immediate follow-up. They're retreating to the river, though. It's going to run into more dire heroes. It's the wrong direction to run, so Amos does die after all. Great little maneuver by the side of LooneyMelb. They're going to catch and kill Dunker 2. Monica dropping pretty low, forced to pop tricks, but Gachi has been forced to the backlines out of fear of death, and maybe wasn't back far enough. They read his positioning beautifully, or Samsara at least gets up the hill to see him, and Nine arrives with a second Orchid usage. This has turned into a bloodbath. Only one track kill to show for that engagement, and they lose all 5 on the side of the Chads. I mean, they say if it bleeds, you can kill it, and they are all killed right there. That one decision by the Juggernaut, it looked like it might have been a preemptive Orchid, slightly jumping the gun by 9, but the Jug's decision, they read that the decision would be to fall down into the river, and that's where the rest of the Dire team were waiting. They catch him still silenced, and they explode this Juggernaut, who, after all, has just gone for Phase Boots Battle Fury, not even a full Windlace, not even a full Wraith Band to show for his troubles. So that is a very squishy target. Obviously has the top farm speed in the game and retains the top net worth, but they are carving out a path to victory here on the side of LooneyMelb, and whenever it looks like things are stabilizing a bit much in this game, they're able to decisively wrest things back, if not into their own control, then into chaos, and now they're going to control a lot more. Look at that sleep dart come out. Gachi has no idea what hit him, or at least the Void Spirit does. Gachi, sitting in his console, sitting at his computer desk, is going to realize immediately, but Void Spirit, the hero, as far as he's concerned, I was just farming creeps, and then all of a sudden I woke up in my fountain a minute later. That's going to start happening to a lot of players, and I'm really glad to see Monica picking up the Sleep Dart aggressively on this Riki hero. Just Wraith stat items into the Diffusal, into the Sleep Dart. It's such a powerful ganking tool, especially against heroes like Jug and Void Spirit. You have to be very fast to react to that. It's a quiet, small projectile, right? You don't have to consider that as like a balancing factor. But even if you have very fast fingers, your reaction time might be a little bit slower to an ability like this than, like, you know, you would expect yourself to dodge a Mars Spear, but this is different. And if Monica gets on top of you, that's going to be all she wrote. The guaranteed sleep into silence, potentially into spear as well, or at least into the teleporting Orchid from 9. But they've figured out a way to deny this. Again, if you're worried about the Nature's Prophet showing up as a +1 at any engagement, simply take an engagement on the Nature's Prophet and Vorkor. That's potentially a fateful choice to try and blink spear the Jug back. His team has to buy back on their mid-Prophet, but it is not going to help Vorkor. He's made his own bed, and he's going to lie in it in the ground. That decision to put his blink and spear on cooldown and get nothing, brutalized by the fast fingers of infamous Amos, and now that they're trying to make something of it, they do kill Gachi again, and a swap is going to keep the Nature's Prophet alive, despite a sticky situation with the Viper. Now it's the Radiant who are kind of trapped here. Again, the mobility provided by this Nature's Prophet core pick is really kind of working out. The Riki, though, not quite as mobile, needs to have a blink target, not going to find one that matters. Dunker just kind of melts him down with the poison, and it was a dieback on the Prophet as well in the meantime. I did not see where that happened. Oh, denied himself to Roshan. Okay, I thought that they were smuggling him out of that fight with the Vengeful Spirit, but decided that a death to Roshan was preferable to giving up a second kill's worth of gold, which is interesting. The rest of the team was still alive at the time, so I don't know if 9 was just a bit panicked there or thought the rest of the team was going to get out, but I'd argue that even if you make the enemy come into the Roche Pit and kill you, that is going to at least maybe mean that your Riki's able to leave the fight, or you're able to turn and respond somehow once the Riki becomes the target. Nevertheless, you know, what goes one way goes back the other way seemingly in this game, and crucially, infamous Amos continues to scale harder than anyone else in the game. both getting some kill involvements in that fight, and now going from Battle Fury towards a Manta. Definitely the farm heaviest build of any player in this game, as Monica, you know, neglected to go for that melee cleave item. Also has the track gold to benefit from, so really the gold advantage right now for the late game, and thus the inevitability, seems firmly in the camp of the Warrior Chads. And that means that if that is true, and if they believe that, they need to make some sort of move, and they do! Swap, Sleep Dart, Spear, Gachi for the third fight in a row is just a corpse. Immediately. And the follow-up, actually, they didn't have to Sleep Dart Gachi, so now they Sleep Dart Amos, the two big cores, effortlessly killed. They hold some discipline and don't buy back, but that was the 3 easiest core kills I've ever seen, and they don't stop. 9 just keeps teleporting deeper and deeper. This isn't even in vision, I don't think. 9 is just hard reading where these players are standing, really popping off on the Nature's Prophet, and he's taking his lumps in some of these fights. He's definitely vulnerable when caught. But that is a huge kill, and 9, after getting revenge on the side of the Chads, is about to go and get revenge for his most recent death against the big boy Roshan. That's going to be so important. The only question is, do they put it on their Riki or on their NP? Both heroes squishy and vulnerable, but you imagine it would be on 9. Nope, Monica takes it. Never mind. I've jinxed it. 9 just backs himself to be able to avoid things, even with the buyback, I believe, still on cooldown. And Gachi obviously knew that was happening, but there's just not enough of his team up and ready to contest. Wow, that's a psychic level remnant fired off by the Void Spirit. They read or spot out that sneaky TP in, but they don't have enough firepower to actually kill 9, even with the disable. And Gachi, after a couple of deaths in a couple of fights, is forced to respect the Orchid. Just bails out, gives up his support and his tier 1, and he's not even immediately building a BKB, or at least the order of his quick buy doesn't seem to represent it. He could always just go back for it, but the itemization of Ags first seems quite risky here. You are tankier, but the damage is definitely scaling enough to keep you very killable within an Orchid duration. You know, you're going to get blink striked by a Riki. Your team who might bail you out are going to get sleep darted, and the Riki's showing in mid lane, maybe baiting Gachi to think it was safe to go back in the water, but the Mars Spear actually misses due to a tree cut by Raccoon Chef. It doesn't even matter. They're able to kill him without the Riki and without the follow-up stun. They just have enough minus armor, enough kills, and they even throw a tip. Zoob's starting to feel himself. Definitely a reversal of fortunes from game 1. Would not have seen them, you know, getting playful in this way with how that game went. We are already past the total duration of that game 1, by the way. That's how fast it was. Things nowhere near as decided yet in this game 2, despite some pretty big wins coming out for the side of LooneyMelb. And that's in large part because of this man. Infamous Amos. His team may be falling behind. Well, actually, the win percentage graph seems to think the game is quite decided on the side of LooneyMelb. But the win graph was wrong for quite a while last night. So, you know, I'll hold my doubts in mind. But Amos, now having the Manta and the Battle Fury, at least is giving himself the best odds to be able to continue farming. He sort of saw the writing on the wall where his team's map control was concerned, and went, I gotta have cleaving illusions to hit some of these creeps for me, because I'm not gonna be able to go out on the map against this. There's just not much to be done against Sleep Dart and like a global teleporting Orchid. Now the Orchid is carrying a Desolator, which bodes ill for this tower, frankly. Gachi has a buyback, but does he want to spend it? He has switched to queuing up the BKB next, which seems like the obvious choice. He has realized that he cannot afford to get silenced in these fights anymore. Certainly can't afford to get Arena speared, so just bite the bullet and go in for that item so you can move around freely. Also gives him insurance against the smoke screen, so just kind of a mandatory purchase this game. Which, I mean, is a bit of a draft win, you would say, for the side of LooneyMelb. That they've been able to blunt the impact of this Gachi hero and force him into more conservative item choices. Tell you what's not conservative is this positioning. The Omni Slash on 9, the swap from the Venge doesn't help. Zoops was actually standing too close. or intentionally was swapping too close to try and spread the hits, but the bounces are unkind. 9 is dead at the start of the fight. That's a horrible way to start things, and maybe you should have put the Aegis on your Nature's Prophet, because the Aegis is down here on Monica seeking farm, while the even more fragile, less mobile, less escape-worthy core is killed at the top lane, and that results in 2 follow-up deaths and a big gold swing back against them again. This roller coaster of a game continues. I suppose you could argue that the Aegis is like discouraging ganks on Monica, but I don't know, man. I feel as though you've got to be able to let 9 be... I mean, especially look at 9's itemization. Only now setting up to go back for the BKB. Surely this is the hero you want the second life value on, but that decision's in the past. What's in the present is Samsara dying. Riki, though, respawns, goes after the Viper on the outskirts of the fight. Smart stuff to stay out of the center of the heat. Even without the Omni/Infamous Amos, represents a pretty large danger, especially with a stun follow-up from the Grimstroke. So that Aegis at least going to be utilized by Monica. But can they get out a second time? Briefly rooted to 9 and freed only by the death again of that Nature's Prophet. Brutal stuff. That is a dieback, I believe. Or at least it's a very long death timer with no buyback available. Monica does finally pick up a kill onto Raccoon Chef, but yeah, a rough series of trades, and oh, Vorkor runs up the hill into 4 heroes, pops BKB, though. It's at the ready for the Mars. It's his hero time. He brings down Neo. That arena is huge for holding them all together, but they don't have a lot of damage. Monica lands in the middle of the tricks of the trade onto an Astral Remnant and is killed. Brutal stuff. The supports just weren't present, and without the Nature's Prophet, there was no follow-up to that arena, so Vorkor ends up baiting his carry player into a very costly death there. This is their last chance. They are on, or rather their opponents are on championship point, as Dunker mops up a ton of bounties off the ground, building towards a BKB now. He will be a much harder kill for this Riki. Things are looking rough. 9 finally back out on the battlefield after missing that last engagement oh so crucially. Building towards a BKB. Everyone's building towards a BKB, except the heroes who have it already. I suppose the consolation prize for now is that Gachi is very gimped. Gachi's actually been overtaken by the Viper in net worth, which is brutal. But Gachi is still progressing towards that BKB slowly but surely. And, you know, you just trust a player. This player has such a killer instinct, such a drive to win. You know that Gachi's going to do what it takes, even if it means playing kind of a boring conservative game for a little bit, to ensure that he's able to do his job when the time is most crucial, when the Roche is at stake, when the tier 3s are at stake. We're going to have that BKB charge ready, and we're going to see some big Void plays. And what can 9 do in the meantime, right? Any potential for split push is kind of dried up. They've created some dire vision around the triangle, which makes it a good hotspot for ganking. So, interestingly, having just warded that, they're now going to smoke down to the other side of the map. Zoob's getting an equivalent ward, and the smoke is broken by Raccoon Chef, who immediately pings it out. So they know that something's happening. And with the nature still showing in bottom, I think it's pretty evident where that smoke was headed. But still, Gachinko hang back. Raccoon Chef is the one being left out in front to just kind of hopefully break some sort of smoke gang kill on Gachi. They've successfully made Gachi fear for his life. The constant attention he's getting is making it hard for him to play his game normally. They're trying to bait Raccoon Chef into this sentry ward, which they do. He's sleep darted, but I think they know that this must be bait, surely. Yeah, they're not excited about that sleep dart. They do not go in, and wise they are. Now he runs up the hill and they go, though. The smoke screen dropped on the choke point. Lich ultimate thrown into the team as well as they advance, but it's not going to catch out 9. On the other hand, 9 is able to catch out Gachi on the back. Sprout into trees. The root just working absolute wonders against his Void Spirit. He goes down without accomplishing anything as Monica is able to get over and finish him off with the Blink Strike, which also moves him into a safe position. Vorkor is going to go down. The Bulwark unable to fully deflect the damage from the Viper poison attacks, and ultimately the Lich is also going to die, but the Cause have already made their way out of the fight. And a great decision it was as well. I don't know if they could have won that one in the long term, but they were able to immediately secure a key kill on the Void Spirit, further set back his farm again, as they'll hope to continue to do throughout the game, and then leave before things went south for too many of their heroes. Is bailing out of fights going to be like a plan for winning the game? I don't know that it is, but it might be a plan for getting into a position where you can win. And Zoob's being put in a position right now by Raccoon Chef. Goes for the teleport. Raccoon Chef just waits derisively for as long as possible and then slaps him with the shuriken, finishes him off. So Zoob's reminded why you're not okay to go down dark lanes alone at night as a single support against Bounty. Thanks for this public service announcement. And there's going to be a quick pause here. Yeah. Love a little bit of casual banter between these players. Zoobs is out. Zoobs has suffered a fatal breakdown in the sort of iron lung copium machine that constantly pushes that precious gas into his lungs. And as a result of that solo death to the bounty hunter, going to be forced to retire from Dota forever. Very unfortunate to have happened in the middle of the grand finals when your team needs you most. But it's just going to happen to some people some of the time. You know, Raccoon Chef will do that to a man. Ags, I would say now up. I feel like it's been up for a while on this bounty. Has the shard as well, though. So, got the bash out of Shadow Walk there, that we saw be quite important, as well as the double shuriken toss hit, which is quite powerful. Really upping the disruptiveness of his hero, killing off Zoobs' courier even, that was just kind of left AFK at the shop. Dangerous thing to do against a bounty hunter. And now the Dire are mostly huddling on their side of the map. I don't know whether because they're experiencing lag issues or something, or whether they just know that there's probably some other kind of aggressive move around that bounty hunter. Definitely smart about the second case, but I mean, they're not under any vision or anything. For once, this is not necessarily a bad spot to take a fight, and they do find their courage. They smoke up behind Vorkwar. They probably saw that Void Spirit spell effect. They see the smoke break and they know, but Gachi also is aware. But Vorkwar follows him up the hill. The Blink Arena, he's going to spear Neo instead. He did not blind find the Gachi Void Spirit, and that might cost them as Gachi goes straight through Nye's Nature's Prophet like a hot knife through butter. Monica arriving on the back lines of the fight, gonna catch a couple of heroes, puts the Void Spirit in the smoke cloud, but gets bashed by the Bounty Hunter. You can still break Invis with the passive bash. Neo is actually brought back, comes back into the game, and alongside Gachi, I would assume is able to mop up the Mars, and now everything is going very, very poorly, unfortunately, for LooneyMelb. That fight looked like it could have been okay, but Monica just took a bit too long, I think, to lap around and join the fight from the back end. Missed some great opportunities to make things count, and ultimately gets punked there by the Bounty Hunter bash. Not a lot of ways to itemize against that one, unfortunately. And Zoobs is going to ask for a little bit of a longer break. Fair enough. Well, let's quickly take the chance to check some of the stats throughout the game. So far, we can see Jug towering on top of the net worth. We hadn't looked at it in a while, but and this is the only hero in the game going dedicated farming build. There's no Midases here. The Nature's Prophet has gone for BKB Orchid Deso, so definitely not here to hit creeps. Even Ricky has gone Diffusal Manta. The Manta's a bit of a farming item, but it's definitely about the fight here with the Basher being picked up on top of everything else, trying to get a little bit more control. So between that itemization difference and, of course, track, the Juggernaut is well out in the lead, but after that, it's impressive. The Bounty Hunter team really only has the top 1 net worth, even when they are winning the game, as Ricky and Nature's Prophet have been making an effort to keep up on CS as well. And if we quickly check overall last hits denies, you can see how that works out. We can check XP per minute, pretty much the same. Yeah, we're getting back into the game now. We don't need to keep looking at these mostly redundant stats. I'm not even like a big stats cruncher, you know, impact probability calculator type person, but I love how detailed the in-game interface is for Dota stats and how much we're able to see. Okay, we unpaused without the carry player. Whoops. I mean, he's not called Infamous Amos for nothing. We don't call him, you know, Famous Amos. We don't call him Beloved Amos. Amos, who is spoken charitably of by all who know him. He's infamous. But at least he's... Yeah, thanks, Soups. Poor Bard at all, having to deal with all the pauses. Look, would I prefer the pauses or would I prefer a 3+ hour series? It's alright. Look, at least the side of UQ Warrior Chads are looking to end the game as soon as possible. They're marching up the high ground. As soon as they have any sort of advantage, they are not afraid to press it. Maybe it's just because they do love this Juggernaut pick. They just always feel safe. They can go and slow siege the high ground with spin. Amos is always building in such a way that he's going to have the physical damage and survivability now. Picking up an Eye of Skadi on top of that Manta style. Between all of these tools, they always know who their tower hitter is. And I feel like that's something that even quality teams who aren't like ignorant of the need for that kind of component in your draft, it's easy when you're under a ton of other drafting pressures, when you're in the middle of a deep series, you're trying to ban around and pick around a dangerous player like Gachi in the mid lane. You can sometimes forget to have a tower hitter. And that's not a problem this team ever really deals with. It's a big advantage. And at least now everyone's back on the same page latency-wise. You can also say that they're on the same page strategically. But I've talked about the Visional series. Raccoon Chef just absolutely keeping eyes close on all of these dire heroes. Whether or not he's actually committing the track to them, they are aware, the Warrior Chads, of what's going on. Especially with 9. He's definitely the hot prize. If his team leave him alone for too long, he will be pounced. But mostly it feels like Raccoon Chef is just looking to try and cancel any sort of TP that might come out. And there it is. It's a weird hero to try and cancel the TP of, because 9 can just TP again out, and sure enough, Raccoon Chef just dies for that. Yeah, I can only imagine that was an attempt to stop some sort of mass play. The assumption is that the team aren't playing with the Nature's Prophet and that he's about to teleport to join them somewhere. But that's not the case. That being said, though, having revealed that the team were playing around 9, it was a bit of a bait. They're going to go for the Roshan, but it seems like a quick calculation is made in the heads of LooneyMelb, and they say, we don't have to go and contest your Roshan. We're going to go contest your high ground. We are a Nature's Prophet lineup. The Rat Dota is part of our culture. Granted, there is a pretty quick kill on the Rosh and a pretty quick retreat to defend the high ground. Not much actual tower damage dealt, and now infamous Amos is rocking a second life. Big asset to have. He is the most valuable hero in the game. He also hasn't been dying much, though. I would have wondered almost if you put, again, like with this earlier Aegis, you could have put it on the Nature's Prophet, and 9 definitely could have used a bit more survivability. Gachi could potentially have used second life, but that fresh BKB timing looks like it's going to be all that he thinks he needs to stay alive in these fights. And look, I'm forced to agree. It's definitely a potent tool. Going to take a very strong CC chain to really fix that. They do have stuns, right? They can swap into stun, into arena, swap into maybe Lich Taunt, into arena, stun, magic missile follow-up, just to make it all clean. But like, the Orchid is not just going to answer him anymore. The slow travel time stuns, like the magic missile from the Venge, are not going to answer him anymore. And Gachi has been waiting patiently to really play his game, might finally have unlocked it here on the Void Spirit. Amos, of course, haven't stopped playing his game all season, still pushing out the lanes, farming up the creeps, maintaining the top net worth. But 9 already has one tier 3 tower to hit, looking to open up another one by clearing this top racks. Extremely solid play. Just eyes on the prize donor now. I think they've realized the time for fighting is all but over. Certainly the time for taking even fights elsewhere on the map is all but over. And are we going to see a base race here? Amos is up the high ground hitting. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, 9 is wailing away. I mean, Amos is bigger, but there's 2 farmed heroes dealing physical damage to this tower, and they have a Deso. It's going to be Gachi who goes back on the Void Spirit, unleashing that fresh BKB, but 9 has one of his own, so not a ton of damage coming out of the Void Spirit. 9 held that BKB for quite a while, mostly so he could use it to try and guarantee his escape, but that does mean they surrender the chance to Rax, and Gachi, he steps outside the base to farm. Monica didn't actually ever leave, and there is an Aegis, but in the time... Actually, no, there's not an Aegis, it's on the Juggernaut. I completely fooled myself for a second time. That's a dieback on the mid Void Spirit. Monica, what a play. Gachi just was way too quick to transition in his mind, clearly already thinking of shoving the lanes out, maybe even of going to join Amos in this base push, and just immediately caught at the end of his BKB duration, and 9 had the buyback where the Void Spirit did not. Does now, though. The buyback cooldown becomes available, or maybe the passive gold trickling over, but does not press the... Okay, now Gachi presses buyback. You've already lost a full lane of racks, and 9 is working on a second and bottom lane. Now 9 getting found without his own BKB, so Gachi pounces and kills him. But in the meantime, while he was pouncing there, does lose Raccoon Chef to Vorkor, has a gem and a BKB and a blink and an arena, and Monica will leave. But in the mid lane, this is absolute chaos and panic. Both teams just sacrificing resources, going all in, more and more chips pushed to the middle of the table. At the end of it all, that's a dieback on the Nature's Prophet, a buyback on the Void Spirit, a bunch of BKBs, a bunch of dead heroes, but you know, without the buybacks, those deaths are not that important. Crucially though, a full lane of racks and a tier 3 destroyed by the LooneyMelb team, but Amos, without any leveler, without any sort of anything, just kind of rocking basic juggernaut items, is able to kill 2 full lanes of racks. And even so, I can't tell really who this favors, because clearly that's the kind of play made by a LooneyMelb team who feel they are on the precipice of defeat, and now they have made the game about the next team fight. And Vorkor is looking to maybe even buy out here to have a refresher. Doesn't even currently have the... Yeah, buys out for the refresher orb. What a play by Vorkor. Real captain stuff. All right, everyone. They might be saving buybacks, but they're fools. We're going to make this next... We don't have buyback on our Nature's Prophet for many minutes, and we lost all our buildings, so we may as well all in on this next fight. Double Arena is going to be available. Double BKB is going to be available. Do the rest of them buy out? I'm not sure. But the Amos is up the hill, sieging as is his want. He is their tower hitter. What a hit from the Omni Slash. Actually, that's the Swift Slash. Sorry, destroys Samsara immediately. Bit of a cleave across as well. The Nature's Prophet is still not alive. Vorkor kind of intentionally throws away the first arena. I'm sure they've had the chance to click on him. He did not, like, hide the refresher components in the base or anything. So they know there's a second arena available. And now the Nature's Prophet respawns. They fall back a little bit. They do not want to get caught in an arena. Even if the arena isn't a losing fight for them, it could just pin them down for long enough for 9 to make some sort of play on their throne. There is a lane of racks destroyed. So the tier 4s are technically open for both sides right now. Very tense moments. Most of the buybacks are available on the Radiant. They're going to have to use them. Neoneu's immediately killed off. It's going to be a fight in the base. There's no backdoor attempt. They know that these heroes have buybacks, and they have to kill them here and now. Monica gets a great swap out of the fight. Zoobs making a worthy sacrifice and has a buyback. The only hero on the Dire who did so. The Sleep Dart is going to try and bail out Vorkor. He doesn't have a buyback, but he is killed by Gachi. Gachi commits deep into the base, but 9 can't follow up. He saved an Astral Step to get back out. Monica can, though. Rends Gachi down. Mega kill. Triple kill. Raccoon Chef and Amos are able to isolate him, though, and the Ricky's dead without buyback. But 9 can't... Oh, the Omni Slash, it collects 9, but it spreads into the creep wave. Lucky bounce, but can the Nature's Prophet get anywhere? He puts himself in the Sprout for defense, but it's not enough. Wow, what a fight. They left it all on the table there, but that might just be the game and the series and the championship. That fight was so close, but there's just too many heroes dealing too much damage. There was just one more spell in the tank every time a core tried to do something on the side of LooneyMelb. There was one hero who was able to reach them from the side of the Ultra Chads. Wait, a buyback! Buyback available from 9. It's just come back up. It's not over at all. 9 is back. He has to be careful, though. He has no BKB, but there is no Omni Slash. So maybe he can actually stand and fight against this Jug. Certainly they can catch out this Bounty Hunter. Raccoon Chef gonna get Chain Frosted even. Samsara reminding everyone he's in this game. Amos trying to chip away at the tier 4, but with his support being down, decides to not be caught too deep into the base. The Grimstroke is arriving. I'm certain the Shard's online at this point for Neo, and it is. So Amos, with that cleanse, gonna dare to aggress on the tier 4s, challenge them to try and stop him. There's no support yet. Actually, the Mars is alive again. So 3v3 now in the base. There isn't going to be a Void Spirit for another 30-40 seconds, though. So this is a real window. Can they chase this down? They can't. Mars got 4-star forward, but did not test himself with the Blink Arena. There was range there. I feel like he could have caught them, but Vorkor did not want to risk it. Who knows whether or not they'll regret that. What fireworks here in Game 2, though. You're seeing the spirit that allowed the LooneyMelb team to turn things around in their previous series. They never say die, and they are good at spotting windows to trade things off in these late game fights, in these defensive, fighting from behind fights. Monica doing everything possible on this Ricky to chase down heroes, to get the kills that they need. And did get them in that fight. Lots of buybacks used. They were just at a significant buyback disadvantage for that fight. And they still are, actually. There were not really any buybacks used by the supports who had them. Still, Monica and potentially even Vorkor might be able to farm their way into buybacks if they're given space. And that's why the Warrior Chads are not going to give it to them. They smoke up right outside the base. They're closing on the Natures. They know he bought back. The smoke breaks on a support. Can 9 run? They lose Zoobs immediately, and they lose Samsara as well. That might already be enough. Samsara had a buyback there this time. Monica just goes straight in. Vorkor backing him up. Had the dispel from the tricks. Able to survive. Vorkor BKBs. Probably won't live, but it's going to buy time. How much damage can they do in the meantime? Gachi's BKB expires. He's a sitting duck. They pounce on him. They're going to get the kill. Massive trace on both sides. Cause dead everywhere. But 9 and Monica are both relatively healthy. 9 getting that 4-star from Samsara. That's justifying his buyback by itself. It's keeping the Prophet in position. Monica closes on Amos, but there's a Hex somewhere. Dunker, was that you? Who was that? It was the Bounty Hunter. Has the Hex up, able to bail things out, and the GG's called. They realize they can't defend their base. Too many heroes are dead. Monica is still alive when they call that out, but they just realize the items are there too much. The Chads have such a creep wave in their base. Even if they were going to be able to turn that fight around, they might have lost their throne to the armies of the Radiant alone. And so after a bit of a spirited base defense, they did make that feel like a grand final for a second, but the Super Warrior Chads are going to be your AEL Uni League Season 1 for 2022 champions. What a game, what a series. It wasn't the 3-game nail-biter that we were hoping for, perhaps, but we did get one of those last night, to be fair. You can't ask for too much, and you certainly can't ask the Chads to be anything less than their Chadly selves. It was up to their opponents to stand up to them, and they did for a while there, but good God, look at this goal graph for Amos. Undefeated Juggernaut champion of the world, infamous Amos, just crushing games. The itemization was brilliant, the team knew exactly what to do, and even when Gachi, I think, had a bit of a quieter game, it's probably a more charitable way to describe it, definitely got owned a little bit by the draft. Remember, this is the last pick Void Spirit. Gachi went into this with a smile, came out bruised, but also holding the championship cup, thanks to the combined efforts of his team across this whole season. Full credit to the Super Warrior Chads for maintaining the fearsome reputation of University of Queensland in this event. And shout-outs to LooneyMelb. They made it deeper than they said they thought they would, and they were able to put up a fight against this very formidable team over this 2-game series, even if ultimately it was an 0-2-L. They'll take that defeat graciously, I'm sure, and they'll carry some pride into next season, because, of course, next season is coming up soon. Sooner than you think. Registrations open June 21st, and they close on August 3rd. Yeah, Zoob's even in the chat here. Proud captain moment for Vorkor. Great to see this team. This team have such a solid attitude, I must say. Obviously, attitude is only one component. They definitely have some skills to back it up as well. We've had a lot of great teams in this tournament. But it's good that LooneyMelb are holding their heads up high, even after a tough loss it must be in the grand finals to come this far and fall short against the champions. But, you know, someone's got to lead the pack, and the Warrior Chads, the undisputed best team in the competition this season. But as of August 8th, currently the schedule for the next season to begin, there will be a chance for LooneyMelb and all the other competitors, University of Amos, even the other Chad squads, to try and upset that dominance that Gachi and co have displayed. So if you're eligible, make sure you follow and sign up there. If you aren't, make sure you're willing to at least watch the games. Make sure you are plugged into the feed of AEL Uni League at twitch.tv/AELUni. That's the channel you should be on right now if you're watching this live. And twitch.tv/AELUni too, where you might be able to find, I think, a Counter-Strike match happening still. But don't leave just yet, because we also have to tell you to go and follow AEL on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, all at nameofwebsite.com/AU Esports League. So that's twitter.com/AU Esports League, youtube.com/AU Esports League. We've made it very easy for all of the, you know, people out there playing less cerebrally demanding esports. Speaking of, it's time to do the final partner read of the season. Shoutouts to everyone who makes this possible. Of course, that includes Predator, our gaming part sponsor, conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming today, just as the Super Warrior Chads conquered this tournament. They put power and precision in your hands, they elevate your gaming experience, and we love them very much for supporting us season in and season out and making this Uni League tournament possible. Thank you, Predator, for making the most high-quality performance gaming PC parts we have ever seen. And of course, we're seeing these games through AOC monitors. I can personally attest to their quality. Maybe not of this one. This model is too new off the presses. I got to upgrade to the Aegon Pro AG275QXL. It's optimized for League of Legends, but for me, that might mean I get some use out of it playing some teamfight tactics. Big fan of the auto chess. But of course, every aspect of League of Legends is represented in this iconic monitor, from its hex tech design patternings and logo to game setting specific optimizations made with the help of Riot Games themselves. And of course, as you know from an AOC monitor, it's just overall a quality piece of work. I'm sure it's going to work out great for Dota as well. And on a serious note, probably going to work in terms of the optimizations visually for any MOBA, right? There's got to be some similarities there. Make sure you check out all the details on the Aegon Pro AG275QXL today at au.aoc.com. Last of all, of course, Rig, what it takes to win. Our headset sponsors. They deliver superior audio for all of our competitive gamers and streamers at all levels, from the Uni League down to, you know, you just streaming at home. They have the user-friendly products that everyone needs. So join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience today. But this has been one of my favorite gaming experiences. Unfortunately, Season 1 of Dota 2 Uni League is over for 2022, so I'll be seeing you again when Season 2 fires up in just a short couple of months. A month and a half, I think it is. Not long at all. You'll be surprised how fast that time flies. So keep grinding Dota. Follow me on Twitter, by the way, at @AWanderingBard for Dota and other esports related stuff. I'd really appreciate your support. And, you know, it's just not much point in doing esports journalism and casting if no one watches. So come and check that out. But thanks for watching, of course, and make sure that you follow all AEL Uni League events from here until next we speak. For now, though, good night and thank you.